Okay, welcome everybody. We've got a title update. We've got a new director's letter, so let's just go over it. So he's introducing himself. Big thank you. We apologise for the time some improvements take, but committed to delivering an enjoyable, satisfying gaming experience. But I've really enjoyed the game. Right, let's see. They brought forward some of the changes they were gonna announce, like new level of quest difficulty and a new reward system, but we've also got some weapon balance changes. Okay, expanded endgame content. Originally planned for implementation in the third title update, scheduled for the end of September. We've moved the implementation of the expanded endgame content to version this update. We'll be adding a new set of high difficulty quests, and as a reward for completing them, you can obtain talismans with randomly assigned bonuses, including weapon skills. Okay, so we have 9-star monsters appearing when you are HR 100 or higher, so there's a reason to grind to HR 100 if you haven't already. And we have probably the ones that we expected. We've got Gore, Arkveld, Radau, Mizu, Legiacris, Steve, Octopus, New Udra, and Jindahad. Starting with this title update, 9-star monsters will begin appearing in locales. Following that, our third title update in late September will see additional 9-star monsters appear in event quests. So they will appear naturally, but then there'll be 9-star event quests. For veteran players who have experienced endgame content in previous Monster Hunter titles, we understand that the difficulty of tempered monsters at launch may have felt lacking. Therefore, starting with Title Update 2, we've introduced a system for more detailed monster parameter customization, as well as other adjustments to ensure a challenging and rewarding experience. Customization, okay. We're adding the glowing stone appraisal item as a quest reward with 9-star monsters. Can I see that easily here? It's a bit hard to make out, really. So you've got a talisman there with, I don't know if that's going to come up on my screen very well, handicraft and counter-strike and poison resistance. Upon quest completion, glowing stone appraisal item, a quest reward for quests with 9-star monsters, will transform into appraisal talisman with randomly assigned skills. Unlike other talismans which can be crafted and upgraded at a smithy, appraisal talismans cannot be upgraded. However, they can be randomly granted not only armor skills but weapon skills and decoration slots. Both weapon skill and armor skill decoration slots, allowing for more customization and experimentation with builds. We hope this leads to a more engaging gameplay and encourages hunters to try different weapons and armor based on talismans they obtain. And as I reflect back on Sunbreak, I didn't mind the talisman system because I prefer randomized talismans to randomized decorations. It's different though if that you're trying to emulate a speedrunner's build and they have very specific, maybe very niche RNG stuff that they're trying to get, in which case it's hard to emulate what they've done. But I also don't mind that with the curious crafting of the armor in Sunbreak, it gave you a chance to maybe try skills that you hadn't thought of before. That it's not just all the big attack boost and that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, so I don't mind that they're a bit randomized, and I like that you can get some weapon skills on them, like guard or guard up or offensive guard. It just makes the load on lance and the number of kind of skills to make it feel like it functions well, just kind of takes the load off of the weapon. Additionally, we recognize that endgame content early after the game's release was slightly skewed around Arkveld. This, combined with the fact that Arkveld is relatively resistant to elements, resulted in limited opportunities to try diverse builds. In response, we have adjusted the difficulty, average hunting time, and rewards for each of the 9-star monsters being added in an effort to ensure that the monsters offer balanced rewards fitting of the effort spent hunting them. We encourage you to select your hunts based on your own individual skill, equipment, or needs, and enjoy each challenge. Okay, 9-star monster adjustments. This should be really interesting. In addition to in light of the addition of 9-star monsters, we've lengthened the duration of meal effects so that they're less likely to expire if the hunts go on a little long. How long are these hunts going to go on for? I mean, speedrunners are going to be completing them in 3 minutes, but for most of the rest of us, it'll probably take me like 20 or 30 minutes. We also raised the upgrade limit for armor of rarity 5 or above, so that players can squeeze a little more defense before they go up against these challenging new monsters. But it takes so much materials to do that for what feels like so little reward. But we'll see. Additionally, from HR 100 and higher, Radar and New Udra will now appear in Wounded Hollow. Ah, cool. Radar and New Udra. Yeah, they make sense in the Wounded Hollow. Jim Dahad and what's his chops? Uthuna don't, because they're very based on their environment. And each region's apex monster will be more likely to appear even with that region is not experiencing. Okay. And each region's apex monster will be more likely to appear even with that region is not experiencing. I think they mean even if that region is not experiencing an inclemency. Bit of a typo there. I'm just misunderstanding it. Title Update 3. As previously mentioned, Title Update 3 will see the gradual introduction of 9-star monsters in event quests as well. We are also adjusting the strength of support hunters in line with the addition of 9-star monsters. So that's good for those of you who use the support hunters. I don't, because I prefer the solo experience. We apologise that the timing of these adjustments are in stages and come after the implementation of the monsters themselves, but we hope you understand that this is the result of expediting the monster implementation. In order to diversify the lineup of quests, we are working to make it possible for Lagiacrus to appear in the Wounded Hollow, as well as other additions such as more hunts targeting packs of monsters. It does make sense to have Lagiacrus in the Wounded Hollow. You don't get the underwater segment, but that feels like something that you can experience and go back to if you like, but it's a bit more of a gimmick and it kind of slows down the hunt a bit. And he works perfectly well on land. He's actually more threatening on land than he is in water. We are also implementing adjustments to improve gameplay convenience, such as preventing monsters from spontaneously destroying pop-up camps and resetting the cooldown of mantles upon beginning a quest. That's going to be such a good one. The whole destroying the pop-up camps made it absolutely pointless to put pop-up camps in certain locations. And resetting the cooldown for mantles upon beginning a quest, that's really good for your speedrunners. Finally, we can assure you that any new monsters added in Title Update 3, will also feature 9-star difficulty quests. We hope you look forward to the content in Title Update 3, and that in the meantime you can enjoy the new additions in the expansion about to come out, to strengthen your equipment and collect appraised talismans in preparation for the challenging hunts ahead. Well, they just hinted that we've got more than one monster coming in Title Update 3, and that might hint that, the Title Update 3 monsters might not have a siege quest, which is what I was kind of hoping for, but that's okay. Also, interesting, we've now got 9-star tempered. Surely those are going to be more difficult than the arch tempered, although at least with the arch tempered they have new mechanics and new moves, so that makes them a bit more special, and they have their own unique armor sets. So I'm kind of okay with that. It just feels like a bit weird that tempered would be probably more strong than arch tempered. Alright, weapon balance changes. Oh, that's quite a lot of changes. As previously announced, we have been planning balance adjustments for 5 weapon types. However, in the end, we have expanded the scope of implementing adjustments, upwards adjustments for 11 total weapon types. So, greatsword, longsword, sword and shield, dual blades, hunting horn, lance, switch axe, charged blade, insect glaive. Does insect glaive need a buff? Light bowgun and heavy bowguns. And bug fixes only for gun lance and bow. Overall direction. In previous updates, we aimed for greater diversity in hunting styles and equipment builds, including equipment with elemental properties. We performed balance adjustments, including some downward adjustments, to ensure no single strategy was overly effective against monsters introduced later on. However, this resulted in some hunting styles being less viable and certain weapon types experiencing lower than intended viability. We apologise for the results that we did not communicate through our balance intentions clearly enough. This update will mitigate the excessive downward adjustments made in Title 2 and will focus on enhancing each weapon's individuality while strengthening their ability to face high difficulty monsters planned in the future. They're really stressing that some high difficulty monsters are coming. So maybe some sort of raid boss. We will be implementing upward adjustments for 11 weapon types. Revisiting downward adjustments for sword and shield, charged blade, light bowgun and heavy bowgun. We will be revisiting downward adjustments made in Title Update 2. Okay, great. Sword and shield. In Wilds, we've been particularly focused on making weapons easy to handle even for beginners, making adjustments to its movesets so that a certain level of damage can be dealt with any action. Among these, the damage output of some actions was found to be too high in relation to their ease of use when compared to other weapon types. Therefore, we made some downward adjustments in Title Update 2. Among those adjustments, we found that the downward adjustment of Guard Slash reduced the usage frequency of Counter Slash, so we're applying a slight power increase to Guard Slash to compensate. That's something I don't actually use that much, but I know that it's quite popular. So there you go, that's been buffed back up. I wonder how much you'll notice. Charge Blade. In Title Update 2, we aimed to balance amped elemental discharge so that it could offer another reliable source of damage beyond multi-hit attacks in Axe mode. However, the adjustments resulted in less power than intended, and also failed to expand player options. To address this, we revisited these adjustments and made it so that increased damage via enhanced files is reflected while in Power Axe mode. Okay, so that's when you have the double charge files, right? Making it easier to maintain high damage output while keeping Power Axe mode active. There you go. So hopefully they found some sort of balance between Axe mode, Power Axe mode, and Super Amped Elemental Discharge, which I just think of as two different playstyles that you can mix together. But I guess if you're trying to min-max, that might matter to you. Light bowgun and heavy bowgun, admittedly I don't know much about, but ooh, we've got a video down there. I wonder what that is. In version that update, we introduced downward adjustments to elemental and pierce ammo to reflect them, to prevent them from being overpowered against future high difficulty monsters. So we must have some really elemental weak monsters coming up, right? Like the recently introduced Arc Tempered Ufduna, and ensure that the variety of weapons types were viable. However, we've been reviewing this change and will slightly increase the power of elemental ammo for light bowguns. We will also relax the downward adjustments to the amount of rapid fire and ignition gauge recovery when using pierce ammo. Finally, we'll increase the amount of gauge recovery for various ammo types and improve the handling and power of special ammo in order to expand viable ammo selections for more situations. Bowgun mains, I don't know if that means much to you, means nothing to me. Hopefully that's good. Other weapons, okay. We will perform some upward adjustments for other weapons like the Greatsword and Insect Glaive as well, which previously had not been subject to balance changes. For dual blades, we focus on improved usability, such as making Demon Boost mode easier to maintain and focus strikes easier to use. In particular, based on player feedback, we added Focus Strike action, which can be chained into other actions. We added a Focus Strike action, which can be chained into other actions, that provides another option for continuing attacks without changing your position. Not really played much dual blades, so there you go. That's something for you. That very snazzy looking video. Right. We have implemented upward adjustments for each weapon type, focusing on expanding playstyle options. We encourage hunters to try each of the weapons out again after the update is live. Details for adjustments made for each weapon type will be included in guild reports on our official social media accounts. So please check the reports for more information that we weren't able to share here. We were also planning to adjust some series skills that were previously difficult to use, with the overall goal of increasing equipment build options. No specific mention to any other weapons. We got some bug fixtures, so I think that'll be okay. CPU usage optimization in the Steam version. In Title Update 2, we fixed some bugs to shader compilation and reduced impact of anti-cheat measures on processing loads by 90%. In addition, as an option to reduce CPU load while improving frame rate, we implemented support for the latest super resolution technologies, DLSS4 and FSR4. In addition, in Title Update 2, we improved our texture loading processes, reducing instances where lower quality textures can be displayed when monsters suddenly enter a player's field of view. In Title Update 3, we will see similar improvements for NPCs and sacred mounts. Was that affecting CPU usage? Future plans. In general, increasing the native frame rate will also increase CPU usage. If the frame rate limit is set to unlimited or high value in the options, CPU performance will be maximized in the attempt to increase frame rate, which may result in very high CPU usage. Please adjust your graphics options to limit the frame rate in accordance with your hardware specifications. We are aware that some players may be concerned about potential strain on their PCs, particularly those using CPUs known to have stability issues, as reported by various manufacturers. Due to prolonged high CPU usage during extended play sessions, On the other hand, as making changes to CPU processing could affect the game's overall performance, we plan to proceed with caution. In regards to CPU load reduction, we plan to address this issue in the 4th title update, scheduled for the winter. Once the initial implementation is complete, we will proceed with a second stage of further mitigation measures. Okay, we will also address CPU load reduction in a similar manner. We are working on improving the game's stability so that more players can enjoy the game on PC with peace of mind. Thank you for your understanding. Okay, so imagine like sediments of soil going down different layers, and then right at the bottom you've got just a core of solid rock that you can't actually get through. Imagine that somewhere in like the choice of your engine for the game and what you're trying to do with the game, there comes a point where you can't optimize any further, and essentially the difficulty was and issues were selected upon selecting those very base core things, like using the RE engine for this type of game. I wonder how close we've now got to that core, where in all honesty they've probably done a huge amount of the optimization that they can do already, which really sucks for PC players who can't get the performance that they want. But if you invest a lot into a PC, then you want to get a really good experience. So it sounds like you guys have not been having that, and I hope these things do make that better, but they're a little over my head as to how much that they will help or not. I'm not an expert on PC gaming. Looking ahead, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to all of you who have provided us with valuable feedback and requests. We will continue to share the development team's progress on these through our guild reports. Detailed information adjustments, including those that were made that were unavailable to cover in this update, please refer to our official social media accounts and website. They'll continue to make fixes and adjustments in future updates. Okay, please look forward to more details. We'll be announcing about Title Update 3, scheduled for release at the end of September. For our 4th Title Update this winter, on top of new monsters, we're also considering additional weapon-related endgame features. Weapon-related endgame features. Don't get ahead of yourself, Duncan. They're probably not going to be switch skills, but I wonder what that will be. We'll continue to work hard to make Monster Hunter Wilds as enjoyable as possible for hunters throughout the world. Thank you for your continued support. Okay, so those aren't the patch notes, so to speak. I wonder if I can find the patch notes. Update information. Let's go to this. Okay, here are our patch notes. So, introduction of 9-star from HR 100 for those monsters. Regular and tempered versions of Raidal and New Udra will now appear in Wounded Hollow at HR 100 or higher. Adjust the appearance rate of monsters at HR 100 and higher. The appearance rate of standard monsters has now been slightly increased. Okay, that's interesting because there was a lot of talk about how it was hard to actually get a standard version of the Sir Regios once you had a high HR. Sometimes you don't want to have to kind of melt your face off trying to, in a nail-biting hunt. You just want to hunt a monster for its materials. So player, new glowing stone has been added. We've covered that already. Upgrade limit for armor has been increased of rarity 5 and above. Added a feature to show hide specific ammo and coatings in the ammo coatings bar. Let's zoom in maybe a little bit. There we go. Add a new recoil aim assist option. Okay. You can now set weapons, armor, and talisman as favorites. Favoriting an item provides the following benefits. A star icon will display, making it easier to identify. You can sort and rearrange by favorites. A confirmation method will appear if you try to sell it or use it as a melding material. You can use weapons as melding materials. Okay. Ooh. Added the option to sort by favorites to the equipment box, decoration box, and artisan materials box. Improved directional input response on the world map, allowing for more intuitive cursor movement. Can't say I ever had too much of an issue with that. Base and facilities. Added a new feature related to appraisal talismans to the melding pot. Nice. Bug features, fixes and adjustments. Balance adjustments. Base and facilities increase the duration of meal effects from portable barbecue grill meals, meal invitations, and canteen meals. Okay. Nice. Monsters. Fix an issue where focus strike would fail if a tear was present near an exposed weak spot. Fixed an issue where it was difficult to cause wounds with attacks while mounted to Blangonga and Ajarakan. I'm not sure what that was. Okay, player adjustments in general. I'm not going to bother reading out the issue fixes. Adjusted the damage scaling during mounts to tone down the amount of damage reduction applied to non-mounted player attacks. That's good because it can be a bit annoying in multiplayer hunts, especially at the start when you get new people come in and they just go straight for the mount and you're there just doing no damage. Fix an issue where the wet status would not be removed when retrying an arena quest while the player was wet. There you go. Underwater hunting. You can now chain into an evade from ascending-descending movements. You can now use items during ascending-descending movement. Okay. Fix an issue where items could not be used while in focus mode underwater. Okay. That's all very niche though. Great sword. Here come the balance adjustments. Made it easier to chain into tackle from combos such as strong wide slash to true charge slash, tackle to true charge slash, and side blow to strong charge slash. Okay. Don't quite remember what those were. But those, those were in level 3 of my guide. If you want to check those out. Didn't realise that it would be difficult to chain into tackle, but there you go. Leaping wide slash now chains faster into side blow. Again, that's level 3. Strong wide slash now chains faster into true charge slash. Level 3. Raw damage for charge slash, jumping charge slash, strong charge slash, true charge slash, and strong wide slash have been slightly increased. So that's just a general across the board raw damage increase. Elemental scaling for strong charge slash, true charge slash, and strong wide slash have been increased. But like, if you're increasing the raw damage scaling, then the elemental scaling, unless you're doing it by a crazy amount, isn't really going to matter. Which I'll get onto in a bit from the next guide coming out. Long sword. Reduce the delay between input and action when chaining into Aya Spirit Slash from Special Sheath. Reduce the delay between input and action when chaining into Aya Spirit Slash from Special Sheath. Didn't realise there was much of a delay, but it sounds like it could be more responsive now. Additionally, slightly extended the window for performing the Aya Spirit Slash. Cool, that's helpful. Sword and shield. Counter slash raw damage has been increased. That's it. Dual blades. Adjusted focus strike, turning tide, so that it can now be chained into turning tide drill, a new finisher action that delivers multi-hit attack to targeted wounds by pressing triangle Y on Xbox or default right click on PC. Increase the effect duration triggered by perfect evade while in demon boost mode. Movement speed during demon mode has been increased. The window for a successful perfect evade has been extended very slightly. Improved the responsiveness of directional changes when using screw slicer during focus mode. There you go. I hope you guys are happy with that, you dual blades mains. Hunting horn. Added armor properties to hilt stab. Preventing the user from being knocked back by monsters. That's when you're doing that little, I think it's backwards and triangle after doing another move, isn't it? Hilt stab can now be chained into from focus strike, reverb, echo bubble, special performance, encore, or evading. They really want you to use hilt stab. Echo bubble can now be chained into from offset melody, resounding melody, or encore. Encore. Echo bubble can now be chained in. I didn't realize it couldn't be chained into. Fix an issue that caused the finisher attack, focus strike, reverb to be difficult to connect. Okay, there you go. They really want you to use the hilt stab. Alright, Lance. Woo! We've got a lot here. Damage taken while in Power Guard has been further reduced. Nice, because Power Guard felt like it was never really worth it to me because you just end up getting more chip damage and chipped half to death for very little payoff. Raw damage and elemental scaling of Retribution Thrust following a Perfect Guard has been increased. Nice. It wasn't until recently that I realised that your moves after a Perfect Guard are stronger. But now we've got more raw damage and elemental scaling. Okay, now it'll be good to see if they mention anything about ground Retribution Thrust, because that's actually weaker than doing a Retribution Thrust after a Perfect Guard. Or at least it appears to be overall. Wide Sweep, Reverse Attack, Finishing Thrust, Finishing Twin Thrust, and Counter Rush, raw damage, and elemental scaling have been increased. Okay, Wide Sweep is triangle and circle in stabs 2 and 3. Reverse Attack, that must be after the dash attack. Don't use that much. Finishing Thrust and Finishing Twin Thrust, those are at the end of a dash attack. And Counter Rush. Which one's Counter Rush again? Are they talking about follow-up dash attack? I don't know, but we've got a damage increase there. Charge counter can now be chained into after a Perfect Guard or guards with minimal knockback. Okay, so you do a Perfect Guard and then you can do a charge counter straight afterwards. Interesting. That's actually pretty handy, just in case you get caught off guard and you need to do a quick Perfect Guard and then you can set up for another charge counter, like maybe a double Sam from New Udra, or that does have a long wind up. Elemental scaling for return thrust, mid thrust 1, 2 and 3 and triple thrust have been increased. Nice, making it a bit more elemental. Payback thrust, ground retribution thrust and high thrust 1, 2 and 3 raw damage have been increased. Interesting. So they're going more, if you use those a lot, you might want to focus in more on raw, whereas elemental might be more for your mid thrusts and your return thrusts and your triple thrusts. So if you're spamming triangle a lot, element. If you're spamming circle a lot, raw. The hitbox for grand retribution thrust has been enlarged. Didn't think that was an issue, but never mind. Extended the distance travelled when inputting a direction with leaping thrust, return thrust and payback thrust. Okay, leaping thrust is when you do triangle and circle from neutral or after a power guard. Return thrust is that's just pressing triangle after a guard. And payback thrust is that circle move that I had issues with. Extended the distance travelled when doing that. That's quite different. I don't think return thrust was much more what was really about the travel. Return thrust was just about continuing your stab combo. Leaping thrust, that's cool and everything. That's already felt pretty generous with its distance, but I'm not going to argue with that. Payback thrust I do have a bit of an issue with though, because that just makes it a bit harder to aim because you're going even further out along a radius. And so it's even more sensitive to your directional input. Adjusted the transition from wide sweep into mid thrust, high thrust and dash attack to be quicker. Okay, so it's just a bit less lag then, I think, out of wide sweep. The amount of weapon sharpness consumed when performing Focus Strike Victory Thrust was reduced. Oh, that's nice. That's good to hear. After winning a power clash, you can now follow up with a return thrust, payback thrust, or retribution thrust. Oh, that is so good. Because after a power clash, there wasn't really anything particular you could do. There's just a really long cooldown, and then you just end up doing a a leaping thrust. But now you can do a return thrust, although they tend to land a bit away from you for a return thrust, although maybe that extended distance makes that easier now. Payback thrust probably makes that easier. And retribution thrust, that's good. It's good to have that. Fix an issue where certain attacks hitting the opposite direction of the player is facing during a power guard would not correctly transition into a stalwart guard. What? An issue where certain attacks hitting the opposite direction of a player the player is facing during a power guard. Oh, okay, so if you're doing a power guard against Balahara's puke beam and you're facing the other direction and you transitioned into a stalwart, it wouldn't correctly transition into a stalwart guard. That's incredibly niche and not something I ever particularly did. But then I don't use power guard that much. Fix an issue where guarding while moving would not properly block attacks. Okay, how are we doing then with this? That's quite a lot of changes. So power guarding had been buffed because you take less damage. The raw damage of retribution thrust following a perfect guard has been increased. So perfect guard into retribution thrust is now even stronger. Wide sweep reverse attack, finishing thrust, finishing wide sweep. So basically the wide sweep and various dash attack moves had increased raw damage and elemental scaling. Nice. So you can now do a charge counter after a perfect guard. Cool. Elemental scaling for return thrust for triangle attacks has been increased. Raw damage has been increased for circle attacks. We've got more distance on leaping thrust, return thrust and payback thrust. And it looks like most of those can be done after winning a power clash. Return thrust, payback thrust and retribution thrust. So that's really big about the power clash. And a bit more responsiveness from after the wide sweep and less weapon sharpness consumed during focus strike, which I didn't really pay much attention to. Okay, pretty good. Just more or less an overall buff to your damage, a bit more responsiveness, and we've got more options out of power clash, and power guard is a bit less dangerous to use now. Gun lance, fix an issue where under certain conditions performing burst fire while skill load shells level 2 was active would result in fewer hits than intended. I would never have noticed. I would just have assumed I missed. Switch axe. Relax the offset detection for axe offset rising slash, making it easier to trigger an offset attack. Huh. That's always a bonus for you switch axe users. Shout out to everybody who's watched that switch axe guide, by the way. Amazing response to that. Wish I could just bottle up why some weapon guides get more views than others, but hey, I'm grateful. The offset build up for axe offset rising slash has been slightly increased. The offset build up, what does that mean? Does that mean you have a bit more of a window before the axe offset rising slash to get the offset? Cool. Charge blade. Raw damage for axe elemental discharge 1 and 2 have been increased. Raw damage for multi-hit attacks while in power axe mode have been increased. Adjusted axe elemental discharge 1 and 2 so that when an enhanced file is used during power axe mode, the explosion damage properly reflects the enhanced file's effects. Cool. Now, I don't know if that affects how you optimally play the charge blade, but it's a bit of bonus damage to whatever you're doing. Okay, insect glaive. Whoa, we've got a lot here. Relaxed offset detection, making it easier to trigger offset attacks. Cool. It took a bit of learning to do that, but I think it's okay to have a bit of learning. The invulnerability window when vaulting backwards has been increased. Increase the distance when vaulting backwards granted by the skill Evade Extender. Something about vaulting backwards must have been a bit off. The raw damage of strong Reaping Slash and Dodge Slash has been increased. The raw damage and elemental scaling of strong Double Slash and Tornado Slash have been increased. Fixed an issue where that caused mid-air combo to have lower than intended attack power. Improved the hit detection of Focus Thrust, Leaping Strike while moving away from the target in air. This attack will now also retrieve extracts upon a successful hit, as it does when performed on the ground. I didn't realise that it didn't do that, to be honest. Anytime I played it, it seems to always get all the extracts. Fixing an issue where certain parts of Rathalos would not yield the intended extract colours. The thing that always got me was using that focus strike on Gravios's face when it glowed red. It would almost never actually successfully perform the focus strike and gather the extracts. Improve the hit detection of Focus Thrust, Leaping Strike. Well, yeah, I've read that. The Rathalos one. Fixed an issue where the amount of mount build-up for jumping Advancing Slash performed as a drawn attack varied depending on the timing of the hit. That's extremely niche. I wonder how many people would have actually noted that. Fixed an issue where when quickly inputting commands after getting up, Leaping Slash or Sidestep Slash would trigger instead of Kinsect Harvest Extract or Kinsect Recall. Fix an issue where Descending Slash would not be performed after getting up. And finally, fix an issue when performing a strong Jumping Slash in focus mode. When the player took damage while the Kinsect was in flight, the Kinsect would continue to repeatedly hit the monster. That is just an extremely niche situation, but there you go, that's been bothering you, that's been addressed. Oh, Lightbowgun. Adhesive ammo and Wyvern raw damage has been increased. Increase the recovery speed of rapid fire gauge and when using exhaust ammo, poison ammo, paralysis ammo or sleep ammo. The reload speed for adhesive ammo and focus blast, eagle strike has been increased. The raw damage and elemental scaling of flaming ammo, water ammo, thunder ammo, freeze ammo and dragon ammo have been slightly increased. The amount of rapid fire gauge consumed while using dragon ammo in rapid mode has been decreased. The amount of rapid fire gauge recovered when using pierce ammo has been increased. And fixed an issue where only one projectile out of the multiple projectiles fired the Lightbowgun spread ammo would receive scaling from the ballistic skill. There you go. Hefty bowgun. Wyvern Blast Ignition and Wyvern Counter raw damage have been increased. The scaling for Wyvern Blast Ignition and Wyvern Counter Ignition during Ignition Mode ST1 and ST2 have been increased. Increased the recovery speed for Ignition Gauge when using exhaust ammo, poison ammo, paralysis ammo or sleep ammo. Adjusted the hitbox of Focus Blast, Wyvern Howl to make it easier to land. Chaining into guard after firing spread ammo is now faster. The amount of ignition gauge recovered while using pierce ammo has been increased. So nothing to do with spread ammo being that much better now. Bow. Fix an issue where arc shots would disappear if the attack hit the top of the arena. Skills. Adjusted the effects of the set bonus skill Bubbly Dance as follows. Oh, okay, before adjustments is that. Now after adjustments, prevents major bubble blight and grants minor bubble blight after. Wow, okay, that's big. Bubbly Dance level 1 now gets the effect of what was Bubbly Dance 2. And then Bubbly Dance 2, in addition to the previous effects, it also increases evasion while afflicted with bubble blight. This evasion boost has also been increased. Bubbly Dance 2 now just increases your evade window, whereas Bubbly Dance 1 does everything that you'd want it to. So you can now use 2 pieces of Mizitsune gear with 3 pieces of, I think, the Apex gear in order to get the Resuscitate skill. That's big. That's really big. That's awesome. That really affects my switch axe build. You can see that on my channel. I've got a little guide doing a little switch axe build. You can now use far less of the Mizutsune gear if you like, and still get similar effects. Huh, that's really cool. Adjusted the duration of the set bonus skill Warcry. With this change, it effects will now stack with all other effects, allowing for greater flexibility in equipment choices. Is that the Blangonga set bonus? Adjusted the set bonus skill Powerhouse so that it now stacks with all other effects. I don't know which one that is. Effects to the set bonus skill Burst Boost have been increased. Okay. Increase the duration of the set bonus skill Affinity Sliding. Nobody used that anyway. Adjusted the Shock Absorber skill so that, when active, guarding abilities blocks no longer trigger in response to ally attacks. Oh my gosh! So with Shock Absorber, if you're guarding, it no longer triggers from ally attacks. Thank you! Finally! That was so needed. Okay. Adjusted the ballistic skill to increase the effective range of normal pierce, spread and spread ammo. Additionally, normal and spread ammo will now be within effective range even at point blank distance from level 2 onwards. Support hunters. Adjusted performance of Alessa and Fabius to reflect the changes made to the lance. But Fabius isn't available now because he was only during the summer event. Fix an issue that caused support hunters to stop attacking under certain conditions during underwater hunts. There's only one underwater hunt, but never mind. Sacred. Increase the speed at which you can turn 180 degrees while mounted on Sacred. Adjusted the dismount timing window after a successful evasion. Okay. Allowing players to dismount earlier. Adjusted the input timing to make it easier to open map immediately after mounting. There you go. So we've got some system stuff there. I'm not going to bother reading that out. Network. Okay, that's everything. That Shock Absorber thing is massive. There's a lot of changes to Insect Glaive and Lance, although a lot of the Insect Glaive seem like smaller deals. Awesome. I think that's everything. It sounds like a pretty good update. 9-star monsters. Yeah. The only thing, again, I'll repeat to you, is just don't lose your mind trying to get a really specific talisman. Kind of roll with the punches, see what you get, and see if it opens your mind to new set possibilities. I also really love the changes to Bubbly Dance. That's huge. So, yeah, I hope this has been really helpful. And I also said that I would update you on the next guide coming out, because I'm done with my weapon guides now, but I'm not giving up on Monster Hunter. My next planned Monster Hunter video will be a guide to elemental damage, because I think it's a bit confusing, but if I can provide a visual guide with some nice graphics and some explaining some of the maths, but in a way that is not going to be scary to non-mathsy people, then you'll get an appreciation for the factors involved. It's a bit complicated as to whether it's good enough for what you're specifically going to do, but I'll go through applying it to Greatsword and Sword and Shield, and then demonstrate how with different weapons and different play styles, your effect of element will be different. So hopefully you look forward to that. Subscribe if you want to see that, and like this video because that's always really appreciated. Do leave a comment on what you're excited about. Take care. I'll catch you on the other side.